Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got a few more chapters, and these are kind of some of the bigger ones, since not just in meaning, but with the controversy and the prostitute and everything. So we will just jump right in. Chapter 13, this is obviously the chapter that causes a great deal of the controversy and the banning and whatnot. Um, you may have been feeling a little underwhelmed. Once finished, you might think, really, that's why people were um, banning the book? Um, yes, yes, that was the reason. So, in chapter 13, looking at our questions here, here we see Holden's interaction with the prostitute. What happens? What does this tell us about Holden? Do you think the criticisms of this book slash scene are valid? After all, the book is banned in schools for sexual content and or representations of prostitution. Um, so, as you guys have seen or read it, um, Holden does not have sex with Sonny. Um, let's see. Holden creates, it's funny, he creates the excuse that he just had an operation on his clavichord. I don't know if anybody out there is a, nurse or doctor or EMT or a musician, but a clavichord is not a part of the body. It's actually a musical instrument. Um, I'm not sure if, what needed operating on, um, but he shouldn't have been injured by it. So obviously, this was one of those kind of infamous Holden Caulfield lies. And of course, he does it to avoid having sex with Sonny. Now, what this shows um, is Holden's not really refusal for intimacy, certainly physical intimacy. And you see how previous to this, sex is part of what he talks about a lot, but he's never done it. Um, and so it's this, he's talking about it a lot, but can't really bring himself to it. Um, and the reason for that is kind of the epitome of Holden. So um, Holden basically can't experience intimacy, physical or otherwise, really, because of his emotions are still wrapped up in Allie and passing and the trauma from it. Um, he hasn't, you know, confronted those issues, and so he is still stuck on them. And so and it prevents him from not only emotionally connecting with other people, as we've talked about in previous chapters, but it it prevents him from being with anyone physically, even though the opportunity for sex is, sitting in his lap, literally, as Sonny was doing. Um, and so, what this is showing is that a lot of his mental illness, a lot of his depression, things like that, are not just stopping him from doing or having sex and being intimate, but really just doing anything. Being connected to his classmates at Pensy, being connected to his teachers, wanting to do work in his classes, passing his classes, things like that. Um, and so this is um, that kind of one scene where it's kind of all of Holden's issues all in one. Um, and it's kind of weird. If you study psychology at all, you'll notice that just about any and all of any individual's issues do kind of show through that physical intimacy. So this is Holden's kind of issues uh, and showing themselves through physical intimacy. Um, Number two, and even part of one. In fact, now that you've seen examples of all the reasons for the book's banning, briefly, what do you think? Should it be banned? Why or why not? I'm going to kind of obviously read those individual responses. Again, I think most people kind of look at that scene, especially with Sonny, and just go, "That was it. That was nothing. It's whatever. It wasn't sex. If it wasn't sex, is it really promoting it?" Um, so who knows? Maybe in the 50s when this was written and released. All right. Um, Branching off from that, afterwards, Maurice comes up to the room. Um, and he gets into a fight. Holden and Maurice fight. Um, as we've seen the scene in the beginning with Stradlater, um, this fight pretty much goes the same way. And he's got this thing where he's said a few times where he doesn't like uh, facing other people that he's angry with or confronting. This, of course, has a deeper meaning. Um, so the fight with Maurice, like with Stradlater, and really anyone he's angry at, is really just one-sided. In fact, I think during the fight, Holden bursts out into tears. Um, and so Maurice punches Holden and then walks out, leaving Holden both angry and contemplating suicide. Again, there's a duality there. Holden likes to kind of talk a big talk. He talks, I think, earlier in the book about what he would do with someone who had stolen his gloves, um, but he would never actually do it. He talks about it, he thinks about it, doesn't really do anything, doesn't really confront anyone, certainly not physically. Um, and in fact, he doesn't commit suicide ultimately because he doesn't want people to see his uh, basically his dead body. Um, and so I will refer to you guys back to 6 degrees of separation. Um, so first off, Holden's inability to fight others is exactly what Paul says in his imagination monologue. To face ourselves, that's the hard thing. The imagination, that's God's gift to make the act of self-examination bearable. So the idea here, and again, this is a kind of shown psychological one, that is, we look at others as similar to us, maybe not exactly the same. And so Holden's inability to even fight back against other people is really Holden's inability to kind of confront his own issues. Paul sees it as the imagination that allows us to, examine us and ourselves and, you know, try to change what we don't like about ourselves. Holden can't do that. Holden won't confront himself. Holden doesn't have that imagination to look at himself and go, wow, I'm doing this thing that is not helping what I want. Um, and so Holden isn't seeing, due to a lack of imagination, what he's doing to himself and is therefore stuck in self-sabotage. And that's a big one. A lot of people call Holden a hypocrite because, he does one thing and says a different thing. Um, but I don't think so. I think it's more almost sinister than that. I think what he does is he has a need, a subconscious need to connect with people and then destroys that relationship, usually through lying. Um, Miss Morrow on the train, he thought she was kind of attractive, um, and then proceeds to talk to her and do nothing but lie. Um, if Miss Morrow doesn't know who that person, who Holden actually is, then there's no connection there. And you see this with, a lot of the girls that he wants to have a relationship, whether it's Jane or Sally or whoever else. and things like that. It's this kind of simultaneous need to reach out and connect with people, but a self-sabotage of, you know, break off that relationship either soon or like, you know, before you get hurt by it. And of course, that self-sabotage comes from um, how deeply he was connected to Allie. And of course, he passed away or left, if you will. Um, and so that relationship was ultimately changed. He was hurt by it. So he's trying to distance himself. He's sabotaging his relationships before he gets hurt again, like he did with Allie. Okay, and then chapter 15. In this chapter, we see Holden and his views on religion and wanting to pray in chapter 14 and meeting the two nuns. What do these scenes tell us about Holden's belief and spirituality? Um, he does have some sort of spirituality. He does have some sort of beliefs. He likes religion. He likes the beliefs in religion. He just, of course, thinks that a lot of the people who are believers are phony because they don't commit to those beliefs. Um, let's see. That's why he does like the two nuns. They have committed to his beliefs. They are not phony whatsoever. They're kind of practicing what they preach, if you will. Whereas he sees most people that are not practicing what they believe. Um, and so, while cynical, again, there's that idea of he's kind of keeping himself away from, making connections, peoples, and relationships. So, all right, that's it. We've got only, well, we're in the last half of the book. So, this is when things start to pick up a little bit, not too much. They don't ever really pick up. Um, as you can tell by Salinger's writing, he's very deliberate, very subtle. Um, so that's it for this time. I will see you online.